Well, good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Richard Cruz, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Navy is Commander Phil Andrews. We warmly welcome the family of Flight Sergeant John McAulay Morrison in attendance for this evening's ceremony, and wish to extend a special welcome to Mrs. Merle Taylor, who is a 101-year-old widow of Flight Sergeant John Morrison, who is watching the live stream of this ceremony. His story will be told shortly. We also welcome Wing Commander Belinda Edmonds, representing Air Force Association. As always, we welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by family and visitors to the memorial. If you're able, I'd like to invite you all to please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. If you're able, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn their loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths and floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Flight Sergeant John McAulay Morrison. John Morrison was born on the 1st of February 1918 in Lismore, New South Wales, the son of Daniel and Margaret Morrison. Known as Jack, he grew up in Grafton in the Northern Rivers region of New South Wales, where he attended Grafton High School before going to work as an estate manager. Jack had 5 brothers, all of whom would go on to serve during the Second World War. The Morrison brothers were involved in sporting activities, including football and tennis, and were active members of the Yamba Surf Club. In April 1940, 22-year-old Jack Morrison applied to be an aircrew member with the Royal Australian Air Force. Not long afterwards, on the 22nd of May, he married Merle Eileen Emery. A daughter, Margaret, would later be born to the couple. The newlywed Morrison was called up 4 months later and on the 16th of September 1940 enlisted in the Royal Australian Air Force. He entered training as a pilot, and on the 4th of June 1941 he embarked from Sydney, bound for service overseas. Arriving in the United Kingdom in August, he was attached to the Royal Air Force. After further training, in late September, he joined No. 57 Operational Training Unit, based at Howardine Airport in Wales, where he trained as a fighter pilot flying Spitfires. In early April 1942, Morrison was transferred to No. 452 Squadron, based at RAF Andreas on the Isle of Man, the first Australian squadron formed in Britain during the Second World War. While it was in Europe, No. 452 Squadron also had British and Commonwealth personnel, and a number of Polish pilots also flew with the squadron. In June, the squadron withdrew from operations in Britain to return to Australia. By then, Morrison had been featured in newspapers with reports that his Spitfire had been involved in a fight with 3 Messerschmitts. After parts of his rudder had been shot away, one report stated that the young Morrison hung on for 50 miles in the chase after the Messers, leading machine, and finally had the satisfaction of sending machine and pilot crashing into the sea in a mass of flames. Morrison arrived in Melbourne in early June 1942, and by the end of the month had been transferred to No. 75 Squadron, a fighter unit which flew P-40 Kitty Hawks. No. 75 Squadron had been formed in March 1942 to counter the threat to Allied positions in New Guinea. By the time that Morrison joined, the squadron had been in action over Port Moresby or Lae almost every day during the late March and April, usually outnumbered by Japanese aircraft. Having returned to Australia in May, the squadron was first located at Townsville and later moved to Kingaroy in Queensland. In late July, the unit returned to New Guinea, where it would take part in the Battle of Milne Bay. Morrison, however, would not live to see the battle. On the 28th of June 1942, he was killed when the P-40 Echo Kitty Hawk, which he was flying, failed to recover from a spin and crashed. He was 24 years old, survived by his wife and baby daughter. Today, his remains lie in Grafton Cemetery. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my left, among almost 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. His photograph is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Flight Sergeant John McAulay Morrison, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
If you're able, please stand for the reading of the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes this evening's last post ceremony. We thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial and wish you all a very good evening. Thank you.